Hello. Oh God, my hair. Oh, my hair's a bit frizzy today. I don't know how I feel about it. Should have conditioned. I don't know about that. Hi, hello. How am I sounding? Everything's sounding okay? I have not streamed for a while. I might be a little bit out of sorts today. We'll see. I've got my caffeine though, so hopefully things are all right. Yeah, how's everybody doing? I looking okay. Everything's looking all right. I would I don't know. Should I zoom in? Should I zoom in a little bit? I feel like this is a pretty wide shot here. You can do a little bit of zooming. Zoom. I appreciate that. Anyone watches Tim and Eric or Tim Heidecker's Office Hours, they use that little soundbite every time someone comes on Zoom. Little zoom. Ooh. I like that. That's better. Just a little bit closer. Sounds good. Zoom in a little bit. I feel like this is a pretty wide shot here. You can do a little bit of zooming. Might actually not have any audio troubles today. Knock on wood. We'll see. This Office Hours. They use that little soundbite every time. On your lunch break. Well, I hope you have a good lunch break. Rest of your shift, whatever you do. There seems to be a rumor floating around that I am going to be doing some Minecraft content. I would like to dispel this confused notion. It is fake news, inaccurate, post-truth. It is slander, libel, and inaccuracy. Where's everybody from? What is your country Oh my God. You know what I forgot? Forgot the dang footnotes. I forgot the sound effect. I'm going to have to set that up. What am I doing? This is amateur hour here. Gotta set this guy up. Oh my God. Bear with me, folks. At 8:08. Oh. How's that? Can you hear that on your end? It's probably a bit too loud, isn't it? My bad. Probably just blew out your ears. I don't even know if I'm going to be using footnotes today, but it's good to have the option. Yes, neoliberal Sweden. Probably better than neoliberal United States, though. Greetings. Greetings from the U.S. Yes, it would not be a stream without the footnote sound effect. Brazil, Portugal, Texas. How are things going in Texas? I know y'all had some turmoil this past month or so. Very sorry to hear about the troubles people have been having there. My hair looks great. I don't believe you. It looks frizzy to me. Ugh. Looks too frizzy. Putinland. Greetings from the U.S. I hope everything is going well in Putinland. Official Gen Z. All right, let me tell you my issue with the Zoomers as of late. I've been hearing from the Zoomers that it is no longer appropriate to do side parts, but of course, as you can see, I routinely do the side parts. Apparently, according to Zoomers, the side part is cringe. So, yeah, I've been having some tension with the Zoomers as of late. It is very disappointing. Normally, we're roughly on the same page, but I'm a fan of the side part, and they just want it straight down the middle, which is, sorry, a little bit boring for me. I can't do straight down the middle. Am I getting that right? Oh, interesting. Pete says, with respect to neoliberal Sweden, they are spearheading neoliberalism, a literal tax haven for the rich, no inheritance, property, or wealth tax. Forbes lists us among the best countries to be rich in. I believe it. I just associate Sweden with, like, you know, these Norwegian countries. So I'm not, but I don't really have any specific knowledge of Sweden. But don't you guys have more robust, a more robust safety net over there? I mean, I don't know how you'd manage that with no wealth or property or inheritance tax. Yeah. I guess I could go for the Rasputin look. Just go full Rasputin. Yes, I've been told my hair is voluminous. Is that a word? Voluminous. Uh, I don't really do much to it. It's just it's a natural gift, I guess. And I mean, the reason it's so long is because I haven't gotten my hair cut since the pandemic started. So it's not anything that's really intentional on my part. If you, as you can probably guess, I don't really, I, I don't really pay too much attention to my appearance. Ah, yes, fringe. The fringe phenomenon. Maybe I'll do a full 2 hour analysis on fringe, on just the concept of fringe. Ah, Pete says we have high taxes on ordinary people to finance things. Gotcha. So that's kind of regressive. I don't know. Yeah, the U.S. is a pretty low bar, so I I would probably be impressed. Fastest growing up. Well, that is certainly troubling. Believe it or not, I don't really have any plans today. I was just gonna chill, pretty low stakes. Let's see. Is there anything I wanted to talk about? Maybe I'll get a pipe. I look like the kind of guy who should have a pipe. A lot of Chileans live in Sweden. Is that true? Why is that? Let's see. I've been uh, I've been in the process of reading this book by David Graeber called "Debt: The First 5,000 Years." I'm about 100 pages in at this point. It's an interesting book. David Graeber, if you're not aware, I believe he is an anthropologist. Yeah, and anarchist, notable anarchist thinker, very prominent, very much associated with the Occupy movement, as well as the what was called the anti-globalization movement in the aughts. Um, anyway, yeah, David Graeber passed away last year, had a very untimely death. I was saddened to hear about his death. And everyone talks about his book Debt, the First 5,000 Years. So I figured I would pick it up and see what all the hullabaloo was about. Yeah, like I said, I'm about 100 pages in. It's pretty interesting thus far, especially I really do appreciate the focus on anthropology. Um, yeah, I've heard some like MMTers pick up some of the concepts discussed by Graeber, and kind of run with them. I think there's a connection there. I'm not too sure what all that's about. I've like I said, I'm only 100 pages in, so maybe he gets into more depth about with respect to that. But it seems to have to do with like certain theoretical understandings of the function of money and the role money plays in society. Graeber, well, let's start with the classical liberals, and Marx kind of run with the idea that money is a commodity that sort of becomes generalized, and Marx says it's a medium. So anytime you hear someone say like money is the root of all evil or whatever, that's not a properly Marxian concept. Marx would say, no, money is simply the medium. You have to look towards you have to look at the mode of production itself. But anyway, Marx was running with the understanding that money is like a commodity. And Graeber argues that, well, he talks about the origin of money in a number of respects. So if I recall it correctly, he sort of goes over the idea that money isn't simply like this this narrow concept of cash, right? Cash is simply, money that you have on hand that is physical that you can exchange. But money is he argues that money in general is a much broader concept than that it's sort of like this, it plays an accounting system, and it functions as, he basically comes to the conclusion that it functions as both a commodity and a sort what he calls an IOU, right? So it sort of stands in for a debt. And he talks about the origin of that concept is, I'm probably going to butcher this just because I don't have good like verbal recall. But he talks about the sort of the origin of money as an IOU is basically like, various stores would have their own money that they would give out, and it would sort of be something that they would accept, and but it wouldn't really get too much further beyond the particular town that store is in. And so I found that to be interesting. Is it on Audible? I might listen to it on Audible. Sometimes I'll read a book and then I'll listen to it again on Audible just to, and even with respect to like things that you wouldn't typically associate with debt, things that people say every day very commonly, like please, if it pleases you, and thank you. These sort of like signifiers which reflect a certain, just in our everyday practices, kind of indicate whether or not, like, oh, if you say please, it kind of indicates like, I'll be in your debt if you do this for me, even though it might be a trivial thing like passing the salt. It's sort of like a remnant from feudal times where servants would speak to lords in that way. And then thank you would be the signifier, which indicates, oh, no, you don't owe me anything. Or I'm probably getting that mixed up. Like I said, I don't have good verbal recall. In a lot of languages, when someone says thank you, and then the response to that is usually it's nothing, which is an indicator that it's like, oh no, you don't owe me anything. And then like if you say instead of saying like oh you're welcome or it's nothing, you could say my pleasure, which means, of course, not only do you not owe me anything for doing this, I owe you something because it brought me so much pleasure to do this thing. It's just interesting how, yeah, Graeber talks about how like debt is reflected in our language. It's such a basic level. Another, right towards the beginning, Graeber talks about this moral dimension in which we talk about debt, you know, where a very common sentiment is, of course, one must pay their debts, but, excuse me, it's interesting to note that, you know, even in mainstream economics, that's actually not, there's no like moral premise that says one must pay their debts. When someone lends money, there is a basic level of risk assumed within that transaction. And so there, you know, even mainstream economists build in this kind of idea that, well, there's always the chance that someone's going to default on a loan. So you have to take that into account. And so, you know, this moral premise, which is that one must pay their debts, or, you know, that's kind of a thing that people say. That's not an assumption. And in fact, it's not even, you know, it's not how even mainstream economists say the system should be run. They say there should be a level of risk assumed. So that kind of is interesting when you think about the 2008 crisis, because of course a lot of the bigger banks were made whole, or at the very least they were bailed out, right? Whereas when it came to everyday Americans, many of whom had foreclosures or weren't able to pay their mortgages, there wasn't really a robust kind of package for them in terms of relief. Graeber says Graeber says the Fed actually even, I think in 2012, floated the idea of like a major relief package for homeowners who went into foreclosure, but it was just it was a non-starter for politicians on both sides of the aisle. So yeah, I'm enjoying the book so far. I'm probably not effectively getting across what it's really about, but maybe somewhere down the line I'll do a podcast on it once I read the whole thing. You'll have to excuse me if I burp. Sometimes I burp when I am talking, and I can't help it. I I've been to a doctor recently, and they think I have acid reflux of some kind, so I think that's associated with it. Sometimes my burps are voluntary, sometimes they are involuntary, so you'll just have to excuse me. I guess I'm kind of like Pickle Rick in that respect. Let's see, what else am I reading? I am sort of sporadically reading Introduction to the 3 Volumes of Capital by Heinrich. What's his first name? I can't remember. I can never remember his first name. But anyway, I'm about 80 pages into that. Pretty good so far. Heinrich has some idiosyncratic ideas about Marx. I'll say that. But thus far, it seems to be a pretty solid overview. Excuse me. I was a bit, I don't know if anyone here is familiar with Heinrich's Intro to the 3 Volumes of Capital, but towards the beginning, he sort of alludes to the idea that there's a monetary versus like a non-monetary interpretation of capital. I indexed that. I sort of like put a exclamation point by that part because he doesn't really flesh out what he's talking about. He maybe he does later. I don't know. Because I'm only, like I said, I think I'm like 80 pages in. Allergies are acting up. But anyway, yeah. I guess a sort of non-monetary reading of Marx would sort of take this concept of the value form and reify it and say that no, value production is what occurs. It really does. It happens, and it's a real phenomenon that can be sort of studied. And it seems to me that Heinrich is at least implying that's not the case, that it really needs to be analyzed more as like a social construction. I don't know. I could be getting that totally wrong. Like I said, I'm only 80 pages in, but thus far I'm enjoying it. I think it's funny towards the beginning. Heinrich, Michael Heinrich, that's right. I think it's funny that towards the beginning, Heinrich is a little bit flippant towards the idea of dialectics, Hegelian dialectics, or dialectical materialism, I guess, because I've generally thought that dialectics is a useful concept, especially the way in which Marx uses the concept of contradictions, to say that something is in contradiction with something else. I've generally found that to be useful. Like, in general, when you talk about the interests of workers and the interests of employers, those things are in contradiction with one another. I always thought that was like a pretty basic thing to say, but I guess it seems like Heinrich doesn't think it's useful. He doesn't seem to think that it really brings anything to the table, and you can sort of discuss these things in everyday terms and not have to get into the dialectics of it, and you can still understand it, which maybe he's right. I don't know. I have to think about it. The thing is, I'm always open to being wrong about all of this stuff. Maybe it seems like I state things with like absolute authority and certainty. That's usually like a rhetorical thing. I'm open to being wrong about things, especially things like dialectics. I don't pretend to be an authority on dialectics, especially Hegelian dialectics. Holy shit. That's a whole thing. What was I going to say? I guess I want to stress the importance of reading things critically. Read everything critically. And that applies to even things which you might like think are canon, right? There was this fairly played out discourse on Twitter recently where somebody said like, "Oh, you don't need to read the primary text when it comes to the big thinkers. You can read secondary texts and they're just as good." And that sort of set off everybody. I mean, a lot of people disagreeing with that. I disagree with that. I wouldn't say that like reading a guide to Capital is just as good as reading Capital. Come on. That seems ridiculous to me. Because you just miss out on the way in which Marx thinks. Oftentimes, there's a certain kind of I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Maybe it's just I don't know. When I read something and and a thinker is trying to figure something out, and they're taking certain premises and laying out the implications of those premises and then unpacking those implications. When things start to click, when things start clicking, it's very satisfying to me. And that's what I say. That's what I think you miss if you are only reading secondary texts. If you're only reading guides or whatever, I think you kind of miss out on that. Graves says, I feel like dialectics are always tended to be pushed to the limit and lead to an us versus them mentality. I don't know. I think the major problem with people invoking dialectics, and Heinrich touches on this, if you've ever had someone say that your argument is not dialectical or it's insufficiently dialectical, which is, not particularly helpful. If you just say that and leave it at that, if someone is making an argument and the response is you're not being dialectical enough, I think Heinrich kind of alludes to this. He says that doesn't really get to the heart of the matter. That doesn't really add to the conversation in any meaningful sense. It just kind of sounds smart, right? It's just it's just kind of pseudo intellectual, which I think that is true. And I have sardonically you might see me on Twitter say something that is, I might say that something is insufficiently dialectical. Usually I'm being kind of ironic. I'm being kind of a dipshit. Yeah, Toby. There are nuances in primary text that you won't get from secondary. Yeah, and that's kind of inherent to the medium, right? You kind of expect that to some degree. If you have a reading guide to Infinite Jest, that's obviously not going to be the same thing as reading Infinite Jest. No, I feel like this is pretty straightforward. But you know, so yeah, I guess I just disagree with the idea that secondary texts are just as good. I feel like secondary texts are very helpful and essential, but they're not just as good. Come on. Kushluck, I feel like at some point new theory will be needed with casualized workers and precariat. So I would like you to clarify what you mean by casualized workers, because that is not a term I'm familiar with. I do, of course, know what you mean when you say precariat. And if people don't know what precariat means, it's just the idea that there is a certain strata. I don't know if it would constitute its own class. I don't think it would. But a certain strata of society that is increasingly precarious, right? Like Uber drivers. People who are stretched so far financially that they barely make ends meet. That would constitute the precariat. So if you didn't know that, that's what it means. Mm-hmm. Kushluck, to me, to say an argument is not dialectical, this means your statements are based on essentialisms and not the dynamic struggle between two forces. I think you are getting at something substantial there. Maybe it would be fair to say, like, it's not helpful in everyday conversations to invoke dialectics. Like, there's a different way of saying that. In other words, you can kind of put that into everyday speak, maybe. But I don't know. Maybe the concept is useful, and maybe it's easier to just teach people what dialectics means. I mean, I'm open to that being a possibility as well. I'm kind of an agnostic on the issue. Just like you're touching on something that is true. Like, there is this way in which people talk where everything is absolute and static, and they talk about it as though it's always been that way, right? Like, especially liberals. Liberals talk about, and I put conservatives and liberals, I lump them together. They're both just liberals of a different variety to me. So when I say liberal, I mean what most people conventionally understand to be liberals and conservatives, right? But liberals do this. That they speak of things in such a way that it's like, it's always been this way, and it will always be this way. There's nothing you can do about it. And that is anti-dialectical. Lenin's cat. I feel like the precariat is a kind of useless classification purely on the distinction from the perspective of Marxist political economy. Yeah, I think the precariat might be useful insofar as it touches on something that is very, very clearly like a real phenomenon in everyday people's lives, is that they are increasingly in a precarious spot from a financial standpoint. But this is not anything that is like new, or I mean, it's manifesting in horrific new ways, right? But it's a phenomenon that Marx describes, and he doesn't feel the need to create a whole new category for it. But you know, like the les petites bourgeoisie, yes, the small business owners, especially, you know, the really small ones, find themselves increasingly in a precarious spot in terms of a lot of them are being pushed into the working class, right? So they're in a precarious spot. And then you also have people in the working class who are in a precarious spot in a number of ways. I think more people than not, right? The Marxists in the room would say something's got to give here. What are we like? About a half an hour in before somebody mentions the renegade Vaush. How dare you? I'm going to get some more water. I enjoyed that, though. Long tangent on my part. Let's see. Someone mentioned, someone is talking about Heinrich. They probably know more about Heinrich than I do, actually. It seems. Pete says Heinrich emphasizes that Marx's value theory must include both production and circulation. Okay. I think I agree. Marx makes this clear when he says that a commodity must have use value for somebody else to have value. Right? There's this question of where value is real, which I think is not a great way to look at it. Like, trying to pinpoint where exactly in the process value is realized per se seems to me, maybe Heinrich would be annoyed by this, it seems insufficiently dialectical, right? Because maybe he would agree, but he wouldn't like me using that term. The question of is realized is besides the point. The whole point is that it's this entire process in which value itself is reified. Like, I think I've heard David Harvey say before, like, we can understand that value is realized in circulation. at the point of circulation where the transaction actually is made. I kind of understand from a certain perspective. I don't know if it matters now that I'm talking about it. Anyway, good conversation. I think I might need some nose spray. Okay. Yeah, Pete. Pete is confirming what I said, which is Heinrich specifically does not try to find a precise point where value is realized in the capitalist system. I think I agree. I agree on that point. I'm sorry. I'm having some allergies, which is like not normal for me this time of year. I gotta go get some nose spray. I've got my potato. My couch potato. It's so funny to me that I have a platform with, I mean, a fair number of subscribers, but only a handful really pay attention to me. But I have a platform where I can just talk about where precisely is value realized in the capitalist system. And it's such a like an I mean, I think it's important, but it's such like an esoteric thing to talk about. Like, how many people, show of a hands, how many people actually are following what I'm saying right now? I don't want to alienate too many people. It does seem as though people in the chat know exactly what I'm talking about, though, which is kind of interesting. Oh, supply and demand absolutely matters. I agree. Okay, if that's what Heinrich is saying, then I fully agree with that. Now that you mention it, I seem to think, I seem to remember him talking about that. But then again, he's emphasizing that maybe this term socially necessary labor time is kind of misleading, because you're kind of using circular reasoning there. You're kind of like begging the question, maybe. But yeah, like production and circulation both need to be accounted for. I don't even, why would that be controversial? That seems obvious to me. Bogdan says, not gonna lie, you putting more of a focus on lefty politics is kind of the thing that renewed my interest in your channel. That's good to hear, but I think you're in the minority there, based on my analytics. Which is fine. Whatever. I'm not gonna change who I am as a person any more so than I already have, you know? Because some of that is inevitable. Some chill tunes. I can do some chill tunes. Let's see, what do we got? Most of my music tends to be way too fucking busy. And I only realize that after the fact. I don't know. Is that loud enough? This one I have when I was making it in Ableton, I basically just saved it as what did I call it? Depeche Mode sounding track, which is fair, right? Let me know if it's too loud though. Lennon's Cat. By the way, I love your username. Will you do stuff with John the Lit Crit guy? So if you're not familiar with John the Lit Crit guy, he's got started a YouTube channel a while back. Let me throw something in the chat just so people know whomst I'm talking about. Too loud. I'll fix that. There we go. Sorry about that. Chat's delayed by 30 seconds too, so I won't even. Will you do stuff with John the... Yeah, but I posted a link to the Lit Crit guy in the chat. If you're not familiar, I would highly recommend. I think if you like my stuff, you're really gonna like his stuff. But on the topic of whether I'm going to do anything with him, we have been in discussion. I think both of us are really busy, so that would be the only reason. That would be the only thing preventing us from doing a collaboration. But yeah, I would like to have him on the podcast maybe at some point. That would be fun. we're in talks. Believe it, I've had a really rough week. It's just been kind of I've just been really busy at work. So that's why I don't really have anything prepared today. But I figure we can just talk, right? We don't necessarily need to have anything to do. Waist down, you asked a question. What did you ask? Oh. I had to scroll up. Who is the better speaker and who is more intelligent between Destiny and Vaush? Come on. Do we really need to, why is everything a pissing contest? Why is everything I think there's a tendency, and it's not the person asking this question, it's not your fault, but there's this tendency to sort of fetishize intellectualism for its own sake. And I think it would be more productive to move away from that paradigm. Too loud. Sorry. But yeah, if maybe I'll turn up my mic a little bit. Hopefully that helps. It is bait. That question is bait. The whole let me check my sound levels. Now I'm paranoid. Vaush. Yeah, I can see why you said it's too loud. Oh well. I think I'm going to turn off the music. It's too much for me to handle at this point. It's too much multitasking. I'm in a fatigued state currently. Bogdan says, I honestly wish both Destiny and Vaush would be gone from the platform, but that's just me. You know the problem with that mentality, though? And I'm not calling you out. I'm certainly not calling you out, but someone else would just replace them. That's the problem. And so the issue is not with any particular individual, and that's why I personally need to stop. I need to keep myself in check. When I start going off on one individual, I really think that mentality is something I should be consistently against on my platform. I really need to make more of an effort to not contribute to the feedback loop that is the spectacle, if that makes sense. And I know I'm not going to be perfect, and I'm not going to beat myself up over it. But it's something in general I'm going to try to do. So, yeah, there might be certain people who are emblematic of problems, broader problems. But usually it's like there's something going on beyond just that individual. And if Destiny wasn't on this platform, and if Vaush wasn't on this platform, it would be some other fucking people doing this, debate shtick, right? Which I've kind of tried to highlight the problems with that in a video called the Spectacle of Online Debate. And if you're not aware of what happened, maybe I'll just go ahead and read that thread that I posted, just so there's like a version of it online for people to reference in a video format. So I did a video called The Spectacle of Online Debate, which I encourage everyone to check out. I understand it's a long video, and you're not going to not everybody's going to watch the whole thing or even half of it, so I understand. But the point of that video was to kind of illustrate how online debate is more about appearances than it is about real dialogue. But I think I kind of messed up. And so for starters, I got too wrapped up in the debate itself as I was commenting on it. So if you watch that video, you know that I watched this segment of a 3-hour-long debate between Destiny and Vaush. And it's sort of, I think even the participants in that debate acknowledged that it was kind of a train wreck, which is fair enough. But I sort of wanted to offer some commentary on it to illustrate how this spectacle works in a real world example. Because I think the problem with a lot of people who talk about theory is they don't use real world examples to connect with people. So I thought that was a perfect opportunity to show how online debate is sort of this manufactured theatrical spectacle. And it's not really about getting to the heart of the matter. It's not really about dialogue, as I said. It's more about ego and the aggrandizement of the self and basically self-promotion, which, as I've kind of alluded to, I don't blame any particular individual for that. We're all just operating in this particular sphere of influence in which there are certain incentives, right? But anyway, I got wrapped up in the debate itself, and I got sort of emotionally involved, and I was trying to sort of put out fires and defeat the bad arguments, as one does. And this alone isn't a negative thing per se. I kind of expected it would happen. It does serve to demonstrate how easy it is to get wrapped up in the endless circle jerk that is the online debate scene. But here's where I really fucked up. Okay, I made some short compilations from this longer stream with some of the juicier bits. Hold on, sorry. I made some compilations from the longer stream with some of the juicier bits. And if you remember, they were on my channel. There was one called Dunking on Destiny, and then there was another one called, I think it was called Destiny Doesn't Understand Marks, which I think is a fair statement, actually. But my intent, basically, well, first I'll say it is common practice for streamers to do that kind of thing, to post like short little juicy compilations from longer videos. But of course I should have anticipated this would contribute to the feedback loop. So basically my intent was to undermine online debate as a serious mode of discourse, and I think I ended up doing the precise opposite of that. So if you realize the full context, well, just to preface this, I'll say after I did that, I received a reply from Destiny, the man himself, on Thursday, asking if I wanted to chat, which is with a little smiley face next to it, which makes me feel like I'm in a creepypasta, personally. But, you know, if you understand the broader context of what I was trying to do, you of course know why I'm not really going to entertain the idea of talking to Destiny. But I did take down my short compilations because I think in hindsight they're totally counterproductive. And if anyone wants to see those clips in the broader context, they still can, because you could still watch the spectacle of online debate. But I think in this case, the medium is the message, and that was not the message I wanted to convey with those specific videos, so I took them down. This isn't really a moral thing, per se. It's just that in my own small way, I ended up contributing to the spectacle. So I guess you could say I posted cringe. So I set out to accomplish one thing, and I did the exact opposite. But I do want to impress on people just exactly how this works, even if it's just like a kind of trivial example. Let's see if I could pull it up. Sorry, hold on. Yeah, I just need to do something really quick. This is a super trivial example of what I'm talking about, but it does illustrate my point. If you see here, this little bump is when Destiny watched my videos on his stream. So I got a little bump from that. And of course, it coincided with people flooding my comments and saying things, but that's not really, it's not a big deal. Like, brigading for me it didn't really impact me in any negative sense. But I did get a little bump from Destiny watching my videos. And so does that kind of illustrate to you how this whole thing works? How it's like, oh, it sort of is a mutually reinforcing feedback loop that is, I guess you could say, advantageous for both parties, right? Even though it seems as though the relationship is antagonistic, it is actually mutually advantageous and helpful for both sides to engage in this purely in terms of the economic incentives involved, right? So I guess the broader point is that like incentives in online spaces propel streamers to be at each other's throats, but it's for this broader purpose of garnering attention, which in turn leads to revenue. Nothing good really comes of this in terms of like its impact on the broader culture. In my opinion, it's a race to the bottom in terms of the level of discourse that is incentivized. So that's what I have to say about that. And if you want some extended notes on debate fetishism, that is now available for my $10 patrons. I assure you I will unlock it at some point so everyone can read it. I never keep things behind a paywall for very long. Mirrors reflecting mirrors, that's right. I thought it was funny that I'll tell you what, I'm not cut out to be a debater. I'm not. So I really shouldn't have gone there. And I'll tell you why. I'm too empathetic. I am like empathetic to a fault. Because I don't like hurting people's feelings. And, you know, when I was watching that debate, there's just things floating around in my mind. Like, I'm aware in a general sort of way of the type of things that Destiny has said that have led me to believe he is not a good faith interlocutor, shall we say. But also, like, in general, maybe a contemptible person in certain respects. And I won't, you know, I feel like maybe I'm contributing to the feedback loop again just by saying this stuff, but I'm just trying to give you some context on why I'm not cut out to be one of these debate streamers. It's because, like, so all of that informed the type of thing that I was saying in my stream, where I sort of rant and I'm kind of aggressive about how, like, I'm kind of like, why does anyone take this guy seriously? And, you know, it kind of made sense to me at the time when I was saying it in my commentary. But, of course, that ended up contributing to the feedback loop, right? And I really should have realized that. And when Destiny was watching my videos on his stream, well, the first thing I'll say is I was kind of surprised that he wasn't more aggressive. Maybe he just doesn't perceive me as a threat, and that's understandable because I'm a much smaller channel than him. But I also kind of felt like he was tired. Like, maybe that's just me projecting because I'm tired all the time. But it kind of seemed like he was really fucking tired when he was watching that. So, in essence, what I was watching was me being super aggressive and saying all of these mean things, and then just some tired guy in the corner just kind of like frowning. And I felt bad. I gotta say, I felt kind of bad. So this is why I'm saying, like, maybe debate streaming is not for me. And it's not even something I ever really entertained. I just thought like maybe debate commentary might prove fruitful. I don't know. But yeah, it was kind of like, again, I'm like empathetic to a fault, and I could be projecting here. But when I said that thing about like how I'm like curious, or I'm like baffled as to why anyone takes him seriously, I kind of like noticed him wince at that comment, and I felt like I hurt his feelings. And even though I don't like the guy, that doesn't feel good to me to do that. I don't like any of this, and it's not for me, basically, is what I'm getting at. And again, that could be something I'm just like contriving in my head. I could be projecting here. He's probably got thick skin, right? He probably deals with that shit all the time. I'm too soft for that line of work. Dry Jacket. Discourse is more about volume than veracity at this point. Yeah, I don't know. When you say volume, it is definitely an aspect of like, okay, everything has to be disaggregated, and that's what I was alluding to when I said like I made these sort of compilations. Yeah, I think streaming. Let's talk about it more generally, because I think it's not great to focus on individuals, like I said. I think streaming, for the amount of time that professional streamers do, and some of them, I believe, have been quoted as saying like 12 hours a day. I think there are going to be studies that come out in the future that say that destroys your brain. I think it's going to be one of these things that's like, we all understand that football is very, very dangerous, and it causes brain damage. I think professional streaming for 10 plus hours a day, whatever it is, I guarantee you that causes some degree of brain damage. Anyway, I gotta pee. Howard Dean. Uh, good meme, right? I also, yeah, I was really surprised when I watched Destiny's stream about like how much he agreed with some of the things I was saying with reference to Marx, but I think some of that was post hoc, because he does make this claim when he's debating Vaush that is kind of misleading with respect to property relations. I won't get into it again, but I just brought it up because I was gonna say, like, I was just surprised how he wasn't very aggressive, and he kind of like the worst thing he said about me was like I talk too slow, which I fucking know. I'm aware of that. I'm well aware of that, and it relates to something I've struggled with. You know, obviously it's more of an issue when it comes to live streaming, because when you're putting together a polished edited video, you can just cut things together and it sounds fluid and you don't have to worry about it. But when you're live streaming, you can't do that. Everything is impromptu. Everything is sort of extemporaneous, right? And I go through flare-ups, or I don't know what you would call it. One doctor seems to think I have fibromyalgia. I don't know about that. It's weird. Like, it seems like medical opinions about fibromyalgia in general tend to differ, like, widely. I've talked to some doctors who said that's a garbage diagnosis, so I don't really know who to believe. But they did try to give me medication for it. It didn't really help, as far as I know. I didn't feel like it helped. But one of the symptoms that's associated with that is brain fog, and I definitely feel like I get brain fog. Yeah. And that and part of that entails sort of me, you know, halfway through me saying something, just fucking just completely losing my train of thought. Which I know that I do. I'm well aware of it, and I assure you it annoys me much more than it annoys you guys. But I'm sure it's annoying. But that's like, it's not even harsh. That's the worst thing he said about me. That's not that's not a big deal. And it's definitely something I grapple with, that is, sometimes it's really a problem, and other times it's like I don't even experience it at all, so it's kind of weird. I'll tell you one thing, it is really, for me personally, I found I really need 8 hours a day of sleep. I really need 8 hours, or I am not functional. There are some people who can operate on a much smaller amount of sleep, and I really do envy those people. But I need 8 hours. And if I don't get my full 8 hours, I do find that the brain fog is much more intense. Also, I'm addicted to caffeine, so that might have there might be some relation there I'm not aware of. I'm going to get some more. Hmm. Yeah, well, dry jacket. I think some of it relates to I really do try to think about what I'm saying before I spit it out. Um, but also I think I do kind of like talk much slower than most people. It's just something. It's just an idiosyncratic thing that I do. I take long pauses, and some of that is me trying to think about what I'm gonna say, and some of it is brain fog. Some of it is like me just getting like error, just a fatal error in my head. No name. What are your thoughts on this clear escalation in anti-China rhetoric? Well, I assume you're talking about the Biden administration, and I believe they have. What was the executive order? I'm not exactly gonna. I'm not exactly going to get this right. Biden had some executive order where he was gonna reevaluate supply chains, I believe was the terminology he used. And yeah, I don't know. I think it's an inevitable consequence of two imperial nations in competition with one another, right? So that's the level at which it needs to be analyzed. I am neither pro China nor pro United States. That is a woeful dichotomy that we don't really need. Do we have the Renegade Vouch in the chat? What up, Vouch? Is there a way to determine if that is the real Vouch? Because I've had people trick me before. Yeah, Pete. Um, Sleep apnea runs in my family, so that very well could be an issue. And what I've found is, um, if I sleep on my back, I have issues. But if I sleep on my side, I breathe clearly. So I don't know. I probably need to do a fucking sleep study and go through all that. But it seems so daunting that I don't know. Kushluck, the lib left seems to be converting themselves into jingoists over the accelerating war rhetoric. Yes, I concur. In my expert opinion, as a learned doctor, I concur. Um, and what can we as leftists do about that? Aside from the obvious, which is pointed out. Yeah, can we roll a vibe check? The tankies. Wow. That is obvious bait. Not going to take the bait. In all seriousness, I am, mean, I did bring up in my, the spectacle of online debate on that, in that video, I do talk about left communists and their critique of the Soviet Union. That is kind of to give you some indication of my tendency. I kind of hate it when people talk about their tendency, because it oftentimes has more to do with like identity concerns, or really adhering to a certain brand or persona online, than it does any real serious discourse with respect to, like, trying to come to some conclusion about the best way to get from point A to point B, from capitalism to socialism. So I do think there's all sorts of concerns when one talks about their tendency. But I am I'm what you would call a state capitalist theorist. I tend to, and this is probably, going to alienate some people when I say these things, but I analyze the Soviet Union as like a state capitalist enterprise. I tend to think that China is state capitalist. I tend to not think that is Vaush, because I don't think Vaush would troll me like that in general, but maybe he would. I don't know. Anyway. Yeah, I wouldn't. I mean, the term tanky gets used a lot these days, and I will say that the adoption of the term by liberals in particular entails kind of its misuse, right? Liberals tend to call anyone to the left of Margaret Thatcher a tanky, so that's a problem. But yeah. I do kind of more lean towards Luxemburg as a theorist. You need a better armchair if you want to be a left com. That's fair. Shots fired. I think we should bring Pinko back. Yeah, I'm a Pinko commie for sure. Pete. Pete brings up a very good point. Even if the Soviet Union was state capitalist, it's still something in our history as communists. We redeem that failed revolution when we succeed, as Walter Benjamin would have said. Very good point. I concur. Yeah. And I think even by Lenin's own I think calling the Soviet Union socialists, quote unquote, was a rhetorical thing, right? I don't know. I should probably not talk out of my ass on that. People get so fucking heated when it comes to this stuff. When it comes to whether the Soviet Union was socialist or state capitalist or whatever, people get very defensive, and I don't really have any emotional investment on that level. I just kind of want to analyze things. Shammy wants a footnote. Footnote. There you go. Gold Tager. That is a very good question. What are the major differences between the Chinese and American empires? Well, let me preface that by saying I'm by no means an authority on what is going on in China. But I think some of it has to do with the idea that China was not really conceived of as a cohesive nation towards its origins. Is more so like a disparate group of, a disparate group of regions that are loosely affiliated with one another. So that would be, whereas the United States originated with the as a colony, and once we declared our independence and fought that war, we were kind of a cohesive nation. But then also we had to deal with that tension as well in terms of the struggle between states' rights and a more federal view of things with the Civil War. So yeah, I think the major differences have to do with the particular origins of each respective nation in terms of how they came about. And you really need, like, if you're gonna even begin to answer that question, that's what you need to pay attention to. I'm not saying I've really effectively answered that question right here, but yeah, that's where you would need to start. You'd love to see. Oh, okay. Tarkovsky Noir. I'd love to see you analyze a musical work that has a leftist message, like a record that is inherently leftist, a la Gang of Four magazine, Killing Joke. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Gang of Four. And if you watch Adam Curtis's latest documentary series, there's a Gang of Four song that is perfectly executed in there. Yeah, Lenin's Cat, you said this is a good article against the state capitalism argument. Post the article, my friend. Maybe maybe it's getting blocked because it's a link, but if it comes up on my end, I will unhide it. Yeah. Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, Lennon's cat is not showing up. If you ooh, let's see what can we do here. If you DM it to me on Twitter, I'll look at it. Bogdan, yeah, well, Curtis references the real Gang of Four, and then a Gang of Four song plays at the very end. Spoiler alert. Yeah, YouTube's algorithm is revisionist. That's what's going on here. Yeah, it's funny to think that that was the beginning of the end for Howard Dean when he went meow. Because, I mean, when you think about it, like, really, that's what sunk his campaign. But if you look into the wider context, of course, it seems as though the media was really against him because he was a bit more progressive on healthcare, I think, which is ironic because I believe he became a lobbyist for the healthcare industry. So I would file that under the header of, you know, you live long enough to see yourself become the villain, I guess. But it's really funny to think that the notion that the whole meow, like that whole thing sunk his campaign when we have like this buffoon, the orange buffoon Trump who said like the dumbest shit you could possibly think of every 5 seconds, and he became president. So that's pretty funny. It's funny in a perverse way. Oh, you sent me a DM? Okay. I will read that. I don't know if I will go over it on stream because I feel like I need some time to process whatever that argument is. Pyro Hans, Zero Books video. So asking about my opinion on Zero Books video on Adam Curtis. I haven't carefully, so I'm vaguely aware of what you're talking about, and I haven't carefully watched it. I kind of like watched the first few minutes and I tuned out, which is probably because I was trying to do too many things at once. But I'm vaguely aware of their Doug's characterization of Adam Curtis as like as a conservative in some sense, which I have mixed feelings about. I don't think he's a conservative in the sense that most people use that term. I don't even think he's a paleo conservative per se. I think some of what he's saying is conservative adjacent, but it all depends on like what framework you're using. And I don't know. Yeah. It's I think we do have to be. I don't think Zero Books or I don't think that video necessarily. I don't want to argue that it does this. I don't want to make a straw man, but I think we need to be careful about labeling anyone a conservative simply because they criticize leftists. I think we have to be careful about that, because a lot of the criticism Curtis brings up in this recent documentary series, Can't Get You Out of My Head, I think a lot of his criticism is on point, which I think the people at Zero Books would generally agree on that. Of course, they all have their own ideas, so, but I think Doug would agree about that. So I'm curious to investigate. I need to watch that video in more depth. Be curious to investigate why he is characterized as conservative. If someone can paraphrase here, that would be helpful, but I don't know. Maybe I should just watch the video. Zab says, I wish Trump would just go away. Yeah, I think we're all in agreement on that point. And I know he's delivering some kind of speech at CPAC, and the media is going to make a big deal about that, I'm sure. And the media's role in Trump's rise cannot be understated. So on some level, it really is one of those things where it's like the self-reinforcing feedback loop between Trump and the media, because he gets attention, right? So attention means that the media can profit from it. Yeah, let me share the link to the actual video I was talking about. I went on a long tangent about it, and probably no one knows what I'm talking about. Yeah. There it is. Yeah, and the idea that Adam Curtis is a neoconservative is so counterintuitive to me because of all of the things he has covered in his documentaries and his general perspective on our adventures in the Middle East is pretty much it's the opposite of what neoconservatives think. So, yeah. I'll have to watch the video when I have some more time and can unpack what is being said. Yeah. What else is going on? I feel like we've covered a wide range of subjects here. Whether value is realized at where value is realized in the capitalist system, and the necessity to consider circulation in one's material analysis. That is this. We covered that. We covered the problem with political tendencies and my inclination as a state capitalist theorist. We either had the renegade Vaush himself or some imposter in the chat. My bet would be imposter. I think I'm kind of small beans for him. But then again, I did get Destiny's attention, so there's that. Biden did bomb Syria. We must keep that in mind. It is quite interesting to see the liberal reaction to that, which seems to be, I mean, at least from a handful of people on liberal Twitter, their reaction seems to be, excuse me. Basically, it's good when Biden does it because he doesn't brag about it or make a big deal about it. He just does it. Which is all kinds of fucked up. Dry Jacket, would you ever consider another video revisiting Petscop? It's interesting to think about it, like a sort of retrospective, maybe. Yeah, I would consider it. I just think I would need to have something a bit more substantial to say about it in terms of, like, in order to justify making a whole video again. Yeah. We did go over my contribution to the spectacle, the endless circle jerk that is online debate. Of course, yes, I will be resigning from my position as host of Nightmare Masterclass effective immediately. I apologize for having contributed to the spectacle. We will, I assume they'll have to find another host for the channel. So that is in process. We'll see how that goes. But at this point, I will be stepping back. Yeah, I do think Lennon's cat. I think you make a good point. The a lot of the stupidity of leftist Twitter comes from a good place. Comes from a genuine love of humanity at times. That's what we need to keep in mind. Yeah, someone does need to make a comprehensive trans analysis on Petscop. I could see that. I mean, I attempted to sort of relay some of the ideas I was hearing about the trans angle of Petscop. That's a totally valid mode of analysis. There's got to be something there. More water. Yeah, Carrie Cora. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. That whole angle is pretty easy to miss if you're cisgender, which I am. And it didn't really catch my attention until people started talking about it in the comments. So that's how it came to my attention. And then I had a comment response video where I sort of tried to say, if you have an opinion about this, let me know, and I'll put it. And I basically put it in my last analysis video. The various comments I received about that. God, it's hot in here. I have the heat turned down all the way. It's still hot in here. Ugh. It's probably just because I got this light on me. Have I ever played anything from the Pagan series Oleander Garden? No, I don't even know what that is. You're gonna have to fill me in. In general, though, if you do have any suggestions on things I should cover in the future, let me know. I'm always open to suggestions. What else is going on? I'm doom scrolling right now if you haven't noticed. Well, I do want to call attention to the fact that I've been hemorrhaging subscribers um, since January, since I started putting out videos that are not in my typical milieu. Um, there's a video where I talk about market socialism. There's a video where I talk specifically, I respond to a natural vegan and her understanding of neoliberalism. I had that recent video about the spectacle of online debate. And I kind of, I've been hemorrhaging subscribers since January. So, I put out a longer thread about this on Twitter and on my community posts. So, if you want more details about that, you can read that. But long story short, YouTube is really not a reliable means of revenue for me. It's really sporadic and unpredictable. So what would really help me and be meaningful at this time is, and this is a very important part, if you have disposable income. So this is a message for people who are not struggling financially, which I understand. It's a very small group of people. But if you're not struggling financially and you find value in my content, it would be especially meaningful at this time if you join my Patreon, because that is a bit more of a stable base for me of reliable income. Just, having a certain number of people say, hey, I like what you do. I'm going to throw you a few bucks every month. I have a number of tiers, so check it out and see what works for you. Just wanted to throw that out there. And I also want to emphasize, I'm okay. I am not. I have my problems, but I am basically financially stable right now, so I don't want to give the impression that I'm struggling. It's really just a matter of like my YouTube channel and the amount of time I can sort of justify dedicating to it in terms of other side hustles that I have. And, I do work a full-time job, so there's that. Yeah. So, but the headline here, I'm not struggling financially. So if there are people in your life who are, and obviously they should take priority. I missed it. Oh, I missed the super chat. What am I doing? Okay. EG Productions. Did I pronounce that right? EG Productions. Thank you for the super chat. Trans rights. Hell yeah. Of course. So if that was not a foregone conclusion on my channel, I should emphasize it more. My wife is getting some fishes over there, some goldfishes. Dry Jacket, I hope the sub drop does not diminish your interest in the channel itself. Yeah, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it's really kind of a drop in the ocean. It's a few hundred subs, which is enough to get my attention, but not enough to really concern me. But it's something worth noting. I will say that. Yeah, and if you're not a lefty yourself, maybe it would be valuable to understand how lefties think, and that would be one reason you might get my perspective. Having said that, not all lefties think alike, and in fact, we disagree about a vast number of things, so you're going to get a very specific take from me. I'm a bit idiosyncratic in my views. Yeah, with people are talking about diminish. I think you have to keep in mind the narrator is a character in a story. So to the extent that he's a bit over the top, that is a quality of the character. And while I understand maybe it's a bit annoying, I do I do think it works for the series. I have not really traveled outside the U.S. Kushluck. I have not been to very many exotic places, believe it or not. I have I've been to Canada. So yeah. I hope I hope I'm in a place someday in the future where that changes and I'm enabled to travel more. We'll see. Obviously, it's out of the question right now with the pandemic going on. EG Production says, the thing is, you don't really make politically charged content, so it's obnoxious when people cry, he's too political now. And then you have a little baby emoji. I love that little baby emoji. It's one of my favorites. Yeah, sometimes I do. Sometimes I have a little like politically charged section in a video, and I can understand why that would turn some people off. They're just going to have to deal with it or just stop watching my channel, which some people have decided is the best route, and that's fine. The Stonks live stream. The Stonks live stream was a disaster, and I apologize for the horrific production values there. It is not up to my standards. Oh my god, I'm falling apart here. I like fucked up my wrist. I don't know what I did, but it's like really stiff. Bitten by a moose? You're shitting me. How is that possible? You gotta be shitting me. I would love to visit Germany at some point for a number of reasons. It's very clearly a beautiful country with a rich history as well. Toby says too many people surround themselves with an echo chamber of their beliefs and never want to hear differing opinions. Well, I think it is a problem for sure. I do try to expose myself to conservative arguments as much as it destroys my brain when I do. Also, I'm kind of a like I said, idiosyncratic leftist myself. So I don't exactly adhere to the bottom line, the party line. Uh-oh, I disconnected there for a second. Am I back on? Yeah, I think I'm back on. Anyway, I have my own criticisms of various tendencies and leftist circles. So I like to think I'm not in an echo chamber. I would love to talk about Tim and Eric bedtime stories. I love that series. Is amazing. I don't think there's anything for me to glean from that from an analytical standpoint. It's just a really weird. I mean, if you like Tim and Eric, you are going to like bedtime stories. Certainly not for everybody. Yeah. I've been streaming for a couple hours now. I think I'm going to call it quits. I'm getting pretty wiped out here in terms of talking. I think I just need to zone out and watch some TV. Thanks for tuning in. What was I going to say? Got my brain fog kicking in. Yeah, Tim and Eric Zone Theory, for sure. That's a book, right? I don't have it. So yeah, I took a break for a couple weeks. I'm gonna try to stream more regularly. And hopefully I can stick to that. We'll see how it goes. I don't know. I do enjoy streaming. I enjoy interacting with people in real time, or loosely in real time. So I'm going to try to do more of it. And yeah. Anyway. If you do, again, I'll just plug my Bandcamp. If you like my music, you can go to nightmaremasterclass.bandcamp.com for more.